Oh, you gotta give it to these idiots. They love to sit here and take credit for stuff that happens, and then they wanna not deal with stuff when they screw it up. So the February jobs report came out. First of all, the first Friday of each month, the jobs report came out. And let's just say it was a lackluster month. In January, the U.S. economy added 143,000 jobs, marking a continued trend of growth. The overall employment rate is down to 4%. However, when looking at the numbers within our community, the story is more complex. Black unemployment stood at 6.2%, slightly up from 6.1%. And then, of course, well, you see the February numbers right there. But here's the other thing. So Speaker Mike Johnson, this is just too funny, y'all. He was on Fox News, and I love how they try to frame how the economy was just so awful. It was just so bad. It was just terrible. Listen to this.
Yes, the president is now, 45 days into his administration.
Something like that.
We're transitioning from Bidenomics and this terrible economy that was delivered by the last administration. It takes a while to turn that ship around, but we are doing that. And the Congress is working to codify all the executive orders that the president.
So I'm confused. The United States economy rebounded faster than every other industrialized nation from COVID. It was moving at a much faster rate. GDP was hitting its mark. Inflation was down. How many months of consecutive job growth? So it was an awful economy? Interesting. Morgan Harper joins us right now. Morgan is Director of Policy and Advocacy for the American Economics Liberty Project. Morgan, glad to have you here. So you gotta laugh, Morgan, when you hear these folks talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important, and it's going to be very important week by week as we continue to make our way through this administration to kind of separate the politics from the reality.
Or as we say, the bullshit from the reality.
Another way of putting it, yeah. And here's what I mean by that, because I mean you're exactly right. These top line statistics, things like the numbers that are coming out in the jobs report, they were very strong for the latter half in particular of the Biden administration, but for a lot of the Biden administration after getting through the pandemic in terms of jobs being created, unemployment being at historic lows, all of that. And so even in these early months, January and February, in some ways, we're still dealing with that economy that was being managed by a different administration. There's always a lag in these numbers, and then any changes that are happening are going to take some time to have an effect. So that, could very well be why you see things like pretty consistent job creation, from last month and then a little bit where we left off at the end of last year. And even, some statistics like we saw in this month with Black male unemployment actually going down based on the data that was just released today. But that doesn't mean that we should completely buy into, some of the narratives that are being put out there, that we're now seeing some kind of salvation in the economy and really starting to appreciate just the risks that are being introduced into the economy through some of the big shocks that are coming from this administration in the realm of mass layoffs from the federal government. As we've discussed before, government has been one of the job creation sectors most consistently in our economy for some time. And this month's data shows that the federal government, for the first time in I believe about 2 years, was actually seeing job loss, not job creation. So there is still a net positive of government job growth, but it's because of state and local governments. And P.S., state and local governments also have fates that are connected to a lot of what's happening at the federal level in terms of funding cuts and all of that. So, it's still too early to say exactly how things like DOGE and the layoffs and, the uncertainty around tariffs, how much those impacts are going to be. But I certainly am on the side of the camp that they are going to have big impacts. It's just a matter of when, and then the full scope of that impact. There are some people that are saying, well, it's just the federal government. The federal government's only 1.5% or whatever of overall workforce. But as we know, there's a lot of cascading effects from decisions that are made in the federal government, not just directly who they're paying or contractors who they're hiring, but funding of different programs and projects throughout the country that can have a really big impact if that type of funding goes away.
What I found to be most laughable was listening to Carolyn Levitt and Trump go, oh, look at this. It was fantastic. The manufacturing jobs that were created, 9,000 auto jobs, high-paying jobs. And they were like, this was the most manufacturing jobs in 15 months. I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't more than 200,000 manufacturing jobs lost under Trump, but about 775,000 gained under Biden? So this narrative that somehow they are delivering manufacturing jobs, it's really a joke. I mean, this was one of the graphics that if you look at the numbers, pure and simple, under Biden compared to Trump, it's like real clear when you talk about manufacturing jobs.
Yeah, it is true that there was a net loss of manufacturing jobs in Trump's first administration and a net gain in President Biden's. And like we were just talking about, I mean, it's even too early. It wouldn't even be possible at this point, just based on the short amount of time that this administration's been in office to really take a lot of credit for any manufacturing job creation. But let's look at some of the other developments in that sector. I mean, part of the reason why we were seeing some of that growth during the last administration was from things happening on the industrial policy side of things with the CHIPS Act, with the Inflation Reduction Act, government subsidies that were incentivizing certain private sector behavior, subsidies and tax credits. It does seem like all the signals from this administration are that those are likely to go away. And especially with some of the moves that are happening on the trade side of things with tariffs, if there isn't any complementary domestic production, domestic manufacturing incentives, then that might not have the desired effect of boosting, increase in U.S. manufacturing. So again, it's only been a couple of months. We got to take this week by week, month by month, but it's a lot of mixed signs and a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty is rarely a good thing when it comes to the business environment and the overall economy.
Certainly, we got some great laughs courtesy of Maria Bartiromo, who kisses more Trump ass than Melania. So this back and forth I found to be quite hilarious.
You spoke to the president of Mexico today. I want to talk about tariffs because even as you're seeing this optimism and excitement, there's some nervousness over your tariffs. Markets have been selling off. People are not sure how to view it. Why did you roll back or put a pause into some of the tariffs until April 2nd?
Because I wanted to help Mexico and Canada to a certain extent. We're a big country, and they do a lot of their business with us, whereas in our case, it's much less significant. We do very little with Canada by comparison. And I wanted to help the American car makers until April 2nd. April 2nd, it becomes all reciprocal. What they charge us, we charge them. It's a big deal, but what they charge us, we charge them. But this is short term, and I felt that for the good of the American car makers and the MCA, the USMCA, it's Mexico, Canada. I thought it would be a fair thing to do, and so I gave them a little bit of a break for this short period of time.
But I asked you about this before, and I know you told me when I asked you, I said, you did use MCA, you put this together.
Yeah.
And yet then you come back and you change it up with these tariffs, and you said to me at that time, I did it because I can. I put an amendment in there, and I said in 6 years I can change it. But I think CEOs want to see predictability. They say, look, I have to speak with shareholders. I've got to make plans for CapEx spending. I can't if it's 20% one day and then it's off for a month and it's 25%.
Yeah.
So can you give us a sense of whether or not we are going to get clarity for the business community?
Well, I think so. But, the tariffs could go up as time goes by, and they may go up. And, I don't know if it's predictability. I think
so. That's not clarity.
No, I think.
That's not clarity.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like clarity is the goal for sure. And look, I mean, some of what we're hearing from the president there doesn't make total sense. For example, like we do have actually pretty balanced trade with Canada. I guess it sounds like maybe it's easy to conflate just because they're close to us that, oh, we have this similar relationship with Canada and Mexico from a trading perspective. It's just not the case. We do have pretty balanced trade with Canada. Mexico is a different situation, and tariffs probably are a tool that make a little bit more sense when it comes to our relationship with Mexico. But big picture, we are very much intertwined economically, especially in the auto sector. I imagine that's part of the reason why he rolled this back. And there is going to be a renegotiation of our trade agreement between Mexico, U.S. and Canada later this year. So, is this posturing, getting ready for that? Who knows? But I think another important point to note, though, Roland, is for all of us, is trade is a very important priority of this administration, but it's also something that we all need to be paying more attention to, because when we're concerned about things like income inequality, economic inequality, huge issue for our community. If we're not thinking about how trade and the dollar and all of these things that I know, I would speak for myself even. I mean, I didn't know that much about the trade area before the last couple of years. It's easy to try to like set that aside as something like, oh, there's experts dealing with that. No, if there's somebody elected that's representing us, they need to know about trade. We need to be paying attention to this. And we have been in a really imbalanced trade situation with a lot of countries across the globe, including China, where tariffs do make sense. But this administration saying that, the primary objective with a lot of these things, for example, is to take on fentanyl, that doesn't make any sense, because the policy that would do something about it, closing a loophole called the de minimis loophole, they have totally backtracked on after a meeting with the FedEx CEO. So again, the politics, the facts, we got to keep sorting through it all. But I do want to make the point, though, that it's important that we have better trade policy. And that's something, regardless of what party you're a part of, we need to be paying attention to.
Idiot goes, oh, yeah, I was doing it to help them. They're like, no. No.
No.
No.
Yeah.
You rolled it back to help yourself because the stock market tanked. That's really what happened. And that's just, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, you see the cuts being made, and now you got cabinet secretaries fighting with Elon, saying who the hell's in charge. They're just whacking stuff. I mean, these guys are so dumb. They literally whacked a CIA dark site in Virginia, and they made it public. I mean, you got idiots who are sitting here involved here, and they're running around like, yeah. And then, of course, Elon throws out all these billions they cut. Then when you actually fact check it, they've rolled back a lot of those, and it comes out to about $5 billion. They're a long way from the $1 trillion he promised they can find in savings.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because, I mean, look, well, I think we probably both agree. It's like there's plenty of reasons and ways that we should look at making the government more efficient. Just like we were talking about with trade, there's plenty of things we could do to improve the trade position to help take on things like income inequality. But the way that this administration is choosing to go about it, with just kind of the slash and burn, the Silicon Valley mindset of like, break things, move quickly, whatever, is really, one, not accomplishing the goals, and then also hurting a lot of people in the process. I mean, these types of layoffs at IRS, different federal agencies, they want to politically make it seem like it's just a deep state Washington problem. But as we very well know, and I'm sure many of your viewers are personally experiencing, there are people employed by the federal government throughout this country. And a lot of them are just living their lives and have no political agenda and just have a commitment to service and being able to provide for their families. So why they have to become collateral damage in a so-called effort to make things efficient, there's no reason that needs to happen. And I think a lot of people are starting to see through this if they didn't before.
All right, Morgan, we always appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Good to see you.
All right, let's go to my panel here. I mean, you sit here, Zachary, and I mean, let's just be clear. These idiots are tanking the economy, and it's going to happen. They could try to claim all these different things, but the bottom line is folks need to buckle up, watch their coins, because it's coming.
We have to buckle up, and we have to watch our coins, and we have to do all that we can do to to divest from organizations and companies that are hurting our community and put that money back into our community. We have to look out for ourselves because it is going to happen. And a lot of people say that it's happening by design. They're saying that this was something that was talked about on the campaign trail, about how, Elon Musk made a speech. It was kind of leaked out that they were going to try to have the American economy constrict down to cause a little pain, as they call it. And I think that we're beginning to see it. The things that are happening make no sense. There's no reason to implement 25% tariffs on our neighbors to the north and neighbors to the south. There is no reason to sit here and mass fire so many government workers so fast, other than to cause economic chaos and market collapse. And that's exactly what we are seeing. And so as all of these things are happening, we are now seeing the impact come in with jobs reports and other economic indicators starting to lag. Soon they're going to crash in the exact same way that we have seen stocks crash over the course of the last 2 weeks. This, to me, again, there are people out there saying that this is by design, and the end result will be the rich getting richer, and the people that have money will be able to take from those of us who are just barely getting by. That, to me, is something that we can all be concerned about. Can we do anything about it right now? Probably not a whole lot, other than simply be prepared for what is coming as a Black community.
I just, again, it's for me, it's a daily laugh factory, Robert, when these fools try to sit here and oh yeah, bye, awful economy. It was just terrible economy. No, actually, Biden Harris saved America's ass after Trump tanked it.
Yeah, that's probably something more people should have mentioned before November the 5th. And when it comes to these messaging standpoints, what we saw was that when President Trump lost the 2020 election, he lost his re-election campaign at 1 a.m. the next day when he said, I did not lose the election was stolen, I'm not going to concede. And he began from that moment running for the 2024 election. And in addition to that, they filed 60 lawsuits around the country. They passed 26 separate voter suppression laws, quote unquote, election integrity laws nationwide. They raided local all the way down to the county level election boards to put MAGA people in charge to make sure that they could control the next electoral cycle. Meanwhile, after the Democrats lost the 2024 election, it seems like they've run around in a circle for about 6 months trying to figure out what direction they want to go. Look, if you read Project 2025 like I did, it's 920 pages. Everything they're doing right now is in the book. They're only on the 9th chapter. I highly encourage people to sit down and start looking through what they're going to do, because they have spelled out in great detail with citations exactly what they're going to do, where they're going to do it at, when they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it. And based upon everything we have seen that they've laid out and that they are executing currently, I highly encourage people, learn how to can your own food. Learn how to purify rainwater. Stock up on MREs for your family. Things are going to probably get pretty bad going forward, but just in case, prepare yourself for that. Understand what's going on and where it's going to happen at, because once it appears on cable news, once it appears on mainstream media, it is too late. That is a lagging indicator. You have to be ahead of it. And what we see right now is the massive redistribution of wealth on an international level to the most powerful oligarchs around the world. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and all those people who were standing there on that row of billionaires during the inauguration were flexing to let you know that we will be taking all the money. Elon even said, I want to go down to Fort Knox just to check and see what's there, while my goons, big balls and all those people are putting hard drives into the U.S. government and taking out and extracting the wealth. We see what's happening. They're not hiding it. They're not joking about it. This is the first election in history where people are saying, well, maybe the president won't really do everything he said he's going to do. He's going to do everything he said he's going to do. And you need to prepare yourself for that and start investing, start packing, start being prepared for what comes next, because it's all laid out in a very particular handbook that they told you all the things, and be ready for it.
Michael?
Yeah, I encourage people to read Project 2025, pay attention to Chapter 11, because they're starting to implement Chapter 11, which deals with the dismantling of the Department of Education. And this is going to be spearheaded by Linda McMahon. I guess she's going to put education in the headlock. She's from the WWE. So this is real. And this is what we warned Black people about before the election. And you had some people that didn't believe us. You had some of our people listen to Black social media disinformation agents that really can't tell them what to do now. So we need to redistribute, redirect, or renegotiate, and redirect dollars from corporations that have dialed back their DEI programs, things like this, like Target as well. Kudos to Pastor Jamal Bryant. And redirect those dollars to African-American owned businesses. We know another 24-hour economic blackout is coming up March 28th. And on that day and that weekend, we need to focus on organizing cash mobs that target African-American owned businesses, spend those dollars with ourselves, and focus on teaching about history, economics, law, and politics so we can empower ourselves and fight back against what's happening.
Indeed. So it's a whole lot we got to deal with. So y'all buckle up, trust me, because these fools will wreck the economy.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $8.6 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.